Hello, welcome to theCUBE. I'm John Furrier, your host in our Palo Alto studio for a special CUBE conversation, looking at the growth of the AI infrastructure and the challenges and the opportunities that are presenting themselves to get that. Obviously, it's all about software. We're seeing software dominate the AI infrastructure layer, networking, storage, compute, all kind of coming together. Haseeb Budhani is here, co-founder and CEO of Rafay Systems. Haseeb, great to see you. We've been following Rafay Systems many, many years in the cloud native community, but you're on a tear now because of the AI infrastructure build up, because you have to run software on it. But you don't just run Linux on an AI factory. It's a combined stack. There's a lot of operational concerns involved. Talk about what's going on in your world, because you're experiencing rapid growth right now. Everyone in the AI infrastructure is doing great. You're seeing NVIDIA, AMD, and many others coming to the table, enabling the surge. Not just the hyperscalers, the Neoclouds, new kinds of service providers, it's a global opportunity.
Yes, sir. And well, great to see you again. Yeah. I feel like I've been here 50 times in in this talking to you about cloud native and AI native for the last 8 years. But you're right. In the last 2 years, I would say it's been incredible. The growth in the market is amazing. In fact, even to deploy Linux, like you said, right? I mean, you need orchestration for that, right? So the platform as a service capability we've been building for many years, turns out that the Neoclouds, the sovereign clouds, the telcos who are investing in AI, they all need exactly the same software. And foundationally, what we're doing is we're helping our customers who are deploying massive GPU infrastructure, AI infrastructure, operationalize that hardware so that they can deliver that hardware as a service to their customers and monetize faster. Like, end of the day, the thing that matters most is faster time to market and a better user experience. And if you can deliver both of those things, everybody wins.
Talk about the scope of the complexity involved in running large scale AI factories or infrastructure. Again, you see disaggregated infrastructure at the edge, you see the AI factories are booming, you see, for instance, Dell's business performance has been up significantly, you see the rise of CoreWeave and all these new kinds of cloud providers, but the enterprise still hasn't gotten on board. And you have the global growth. What is the underlying driver behind this? And how hard is it, given the velocity, to monetize?
Yeah, look, in multiple countries, and right now, look, we are in, I keep trying to track this, but Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Pakistan, Saudi, and that's just that part of the world. South Africa, we're now in many countries globally, and the big driver is sovereign. Sovereignty of compute, sovereignty of data is driving a lot of this adoption. So the first wave of this was, I need AI infrastructure in my region so that I can service the local model builders, the local agentic application builders, et cetera. And now we're seeing enterprises who have been using AWS and GCP, et cetera, saying, maybe for my traditional workloads, I'll keep using the public clouds, but for my AI workloads, I want to pick a vendor that is local, that is regional, right? And that's driving a lot of demand. Now, the gap there, it used to be that, well, enterprises have an expectation, right? They need the right kind of guardrails, the right kind of controls, the right quota limits, the right auditing, et cetera. And these are things that take time. This is not an easy problem to solve, it takes time. We've been doing this for 8 years, right? So with our stack, our customers are able to address not just the model builders and the big trainers, et cetera, they're also able to address the enterprise requirements in their region. But the trend is very clear. In all of these countries, and we're in Canada, we're in Mexico, it's shocking how many countries we've ended up in. In each of these, there's now multiple providers who are saying, we will be the regional provider for AI infrastructure, and they need these enterprise controls that we solve out of the box.
Talk about the DNA of the company that you've started, because I think it's important to note that in the cloud native world, we know about Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud now, all the top 3, throw Oracle, you got international Alibaba and many others. That was a slow rise, and it took a lot of work, and again, that was more market pace, but a lot of work got done to not only stand up infrastructure that certainly the big hyperscalers were doing, but to run operations. First it was DevOps, DevSecOps, but during that work, that's where you guys started. Talk about the DNA of the company and how that relates to why you're experiencing the growth on the AI side, given the speed of the AI, because there's money involved, not just cost and operational efficiency. Talk about the DNA and how that translates into today's opportunity.
Absolutely. So we are a very engineering heavy company. And when I say engineering, I don't mean just writing code, right? I mean people who help our customers think about how do you operationalize infrastructure, right? So this is something we've been doing even on top of AWS or GCP or Azure or a combination of these. We've been doing this for 7 years, right? The same learnings we have from those environments where we are helping enterprises consume infrastructure in a safe way, if you will, right? That same requirement applies here. In fact, here the bar is even higher, because the biggest reason why they're coming here is because, well, it's my data, right? I'm going to bring tons of data into some high-speed storage, into a Neocloud. How do I make sure everything is safe? Is it truly multi-tenant? What does multi-tenancy actually mean? How do I report on it? How do I actually have attestation on it? These are problems that have to be solved. Now, for us, look, the good news is, and you know this, man, we've been doing this a long time, right? It takes time to solve everything. What I've learned now is that, look, solving 80% of the problem, easy.
Yeah.
The remainder, it takes forever, right? And that's the grind, right? But the good news is, fortunately, by the grace of God, we've been grinding this out for a long time, and we happen to be at the right place at the right time.
Well, you harden the software, and I wanted to point that out because I think it's very relevant. I was talking to a bunch of folks that are building out these large-scale infrastructures, and I would consider them like alpha engineers. They're working on the hardest problems, but they all tell me privately and sometimes publicly on theCUBE, look, I'm under so much pressure to stand up infrastructure. The demand is so high. I got orders, I got backlog. I haven't even recognized that revenue yet. There's so much pressure. So their focus, and they're on the execution, is getting it up, hardening the infrastructure, deploying it, and getting into operations as fast as possible.
Yep.
And so that's the goal. Then when you start talking tech under the hood, things like multi-tenancy, GPU workloads, they kind of have a similar pattern to cloud native. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, an agent is just a microservice to me. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, it touches a lot of things like microservices. So there's some threads that are common with cloud native, the things that you guys have solved. Security obviously is number one, but multi-tenancy is another word. Like you could have many workloads. Workloads are a tenant. You got agents because there's millions of tenants. So talk about these topics in context to AI, because they're similar in kind of maybe capability, but different on execution, because sovereignty is just a segmented network, I guess. You can look at it that way. So talk about the similarities and why it's important to look at these things that were solved in the past in cloud and how it's rendering out in AI.
Look, the most sort of well-known construct in a public cloud is a VPC, super cloud. If you don't have that, you can't deliver multi-tenant services, right? Simple. So where does that sit? It sits at the network level. It's got nothing to do with Kubernetes. It's well below. But we have to solve that for our customers. Otherwise, in many of these large accounts that we know, what happens is they end up building a separate cluster for each customer, which is very expensive in terms of time, right? It's going to take you a while to build it. The customer has to wait. No, I want to be able to, and this is my definition of a cloud, by the way. You must be able to go to a cloud provider's page, click a button, and get an AI use case in a multi-tenant fashion. I don't want to talk to anybody. If you can do that, you're a cloud. If you can't do that, you're not a cloud. You're
building custom infrastructure.
It's custom infrastructure, hosting, call it what you want, right? And that's the requirement in this day and age. You have to be able to do this. Now, AWS and GCP and Azure, they did this over 15 years, tens of thousands of engineers, right? They have lots of people. The next company that comes along, they don't have time. Like, everybody's smart. Everybody can build anything, right? That's not the issue. The issue is how much time. You already bought hardware. You have $5 billion worth of infrastructure. It's depreciating. Do you want to wait 2 years or you want to go now? Right? And so long as the price...
They all want to go now.
They want to go now, right?
Yeah.
That's the opportunity for us, right? So long as but of course, we have to make sure that we meet a bar. The bar is we must think about every level of multi-tenancy, every level of control, the right observability, the right auditing, and the right operational consumption model. It has to be super easy for a developer to consume, because look, we can solve all these problems. If the developer from an enterprise is not happy, you're not going to get consumption. Yeah. We have to make sure they're satisfied. And we do.
It's interesting. You're kind of you're on the frontier as infrastructure software, because what we're seeing in the cloud, we saw hyper-converged get unconverged, as storage and compute were separated, it's scaled. Now you're seeing models separating from, say, control planes and just operating software. Now that's starting to scale. You're starting to see the Neoclouds in particular look at that and go, wow. So they're stumbling upon their frontier players. So you take a Neocloud, probably your customers, go, wow, we can unbundle these things and scale, but then like, how do we run them? So take us through how you view that, because this is where I think you're at the center of, you're in a software operating layer for a lot of this infrastructure.
Yeah, look, I kind of almost think about an AI cloud like a portfolio theory play. So all of my customers, when we meet them for the first time, what I tell them is, look, you should have some long-term off-takers who will want bare metal. They'll pay less, but they'll be reliable customers. Okay, so some percentage is gone. Then you'll have large customers who will, like the model builders usually want Kubernetes. Okay, we have a solution for that. Then you'll have enterprise customers who will want like a serverless experience. We have a solution for that. Then you'll have customers who will say, I want an open source model because Anthropic and OpenAI is so expensive. I need a hedge. I'm going to use Anthropic. That's never, of course, it's so amazing. It's not going to go away, but I need a hedge. I need to kind of blend the two so I can reduce my cost. Cost is an issue. All of these things are true. So the right AI cloud in this day and age, they do all of these things. It's not just about bare metal or not just about Kubernetes or VM or Slurm or tokens. It's everything. So for us as a provider, we have to deliver all of these. So in our platform, we deliver SKUs for each of these, and then the observability underneath and the multi-tenancy underneath. So you can visualize it, see what's going on, predict when there's going to be failures, but at the same time, you can guarantee multi-tenancy. If you can do that, you can make real money, right? Because now, like if you think about it, the margins from bare metal all the way to tokens, the margins go up. So now the question is, okay, what is the right blend for you to make enough money to justify your investment?
Talk about some of the momentum, because I think this highlights it. Talk about some of the deals you're doing, if you can. You don't have to name names, but like just the trend. What's the pattern? We're seeing mega deals, billion-dollar build-outs, massive numbers. When you get down to your business, what are some of the deals you're doing, and what do they look like?
Yeah, look, we announced a partnership with a Singaporean cloud provider called Aolani yesterday, which is, as far as we know, the first GB deployment outside of a hyperscaler. Like, I mean, like the Nebuses and the Corvies, obviously those are amazing companies. But Rafay has the distinction of being one of the first ones, as far as I know, the first one, to be able to help a Neocloud deploy GB infrastructure. We have many, many of these out there, right? We have customers deploying, like a year ago, I used to think 1,000 GPUs was a lot of GPUs. Now we have customers deploying multi-100,000 GPUs. It's amazing, right? I mean, it's just in terms of the pace at which this market is going is incredible. Obviously, we're a software player. We get out of $100, we make a little bit of money. But the growth that this company has experienced at the behest of our friends at, NVIDIA and Dell, these are all our great partners, right? They are the ones who are helping us, get all this business. It's been incredible. But the critical thing is we have now customers who've been with us for north of a year, and the expansions, like what my favorite customer right now is somebody who had 128 GPUs summer of last year. They added another 576 GPUs early this year, and now they're deploying 95,000 GPUs today, and they will deploy another 200K GPUs next year. It's not a hockey stick, man. It's a straight line up.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
This speaks to my question earlier around the scale of velocity that they have to execute on. So the scale's higher, the number of GPUs, and these aren't cheap products.
No.
They got to maximize the value and monetize them through the service. And so they have to run this operation as fast as possible. They're not going to sit there and stare at proposals or buy versus build decisions, have technology religion. All that goes out the window because the pressure to monetize, because that's quantifiable numbers. Yeah. This isn't like a side IT project. This is like their business is on the line. How do they look at that software layer, and what are the things that you guys are doing that gives them that fast execution and enablement?
So two things that have gone really well for the business. One is our friends at Dell and WWT, and we have such amazing, incredible partners like Cisco and Lenovo, and of course NVIDIA. And NVIDIA is always there, right? 99.99% of our business is NVIDIA on the AI side. I think they've certainly helped us with the standardizations and the certifications that make customers feel good about Rafay and feel confident in Rafay. But I'll tell you that the most important investment we made in this company is not the software. Actually, software is amazing. It's, of course, otherwise why would we have any customers? The biggest lesson we've learned is if we are not there to help our customers go from, we signed a contract today, and now we're going to help you onboard customers. I'll give you a real example. We closed a deal on Friday with a company that is raising $1.6 billion. They're deploying, a number of GPUs for Token Factory. Saturday, the CEO said, hey, I want to go to an event next week on the 3rd of August, and I want to do a deployment there. I want to be able to sign up customers 10 days. We had a call yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday.
10 days.
10 days. I want to be able to sign up customers. We had a call yesterday. Okay, what is the absolute minimum we have to do? And today, as you and I are sitting here, there's a workstream going on. There are engineers from our side, engineers from there sitting on a call for the next 6 hours. They're going to get an MVP up today. The delivery muscle is the most important investment we made in this company. It's not the software. So of course, software is important. That's the bar, right? You have to have that. But to help our customers go from nothing to something working, if you can do that in this industry, you will help.
I've heard many entrepreneurs and business leaders talk about this delivery pressure, next quarter, next month, and compare the cycles of what it was a year ago. So mostly months.
Look,
sometimes a half a year. I got the factory, got to build it out, then I got to roll in ops, deploy, run, test, and then turn it on. That's months. Now to days.
No, look, enterprise buying behaviors are very different, right? Here, we're trying to meet our customers as early in the cycle as we can. So we're trying to meet them when they're doing their deal with like a Dell or whoever. So if we can engage then we can start planning. The biggest question is, and we've learned this now, and I think the team is doing such a good job. Who is your customer? Who are you going to sell to? We're going to be with you, right? We're going to help you onboard these customers. So let's get your customers' requirements so we can make sure we are meeting your customers' requirements. Look, there are people who've been doing this like Corby. They were visionaries. They saw this before many others, Nebius, etc. But the ones who are showing up now, right? Lots of money. The question is, if they take the same amount of time as all these other players who had the time 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they're going to fail. They have a couple of months is a very long time in this industry because customers are waiting, right? And this part, right?
That's the demand curve. The demand curve's there.
Exactly. I joke with the team that if you put up a GPU in your garage, I will find you a customer. There's always going to be somebody who's going to buy it.
You build it, they'll come. They're already there. That's there. Okay, talk about the two things. I'll get to security in a second. I want to get to security. That's important. The monetization, you mentioned multiple times, that is a big thing. So you get the software, you get the delivery chops, the muscle. How do you guys help people monetize? And as Sovereign comes in, that's another piece. So I have money, I'm going to deploy it. I got to get up and running. Now I got to monetize. What's your role in that monetization? How do you help them?
Yeah. So we help. So as part of our contract, what we are telling our customers is your first 3 customers, we're going to help you onboard them. We're going to make sure it just goes perfectly. We don't charge $1 for this. We're not a service company. We're a software company. But for us, the best thing to do is in the first 6 months or so, if we can make our customers super successful, you know what happens every time? They buy more hardware.
Yeah.
And they buy more hardware, we make money because we make money. Effectively, we are making, a very small cut of their revenue, right?
Okay.
So the more they deploy, they win and we win. So what is the best thing for us? Go as fast as possible, right? So we keep doing this again and again, right? So the thing that we, if you will, advise our customers on is, well, we have enough of these Neoclouds now. What are we seeing elsewhere in the industry? So our other sovereign accounts, what are we seeing them be successful at? TELUS is a customer of Rafay's. TELUS is a Canadian sovereign cloud, right? They've been very public about their token factory product, right? So that's a lot of that's powered by Rafay. Man, they're doing so well. John, this company, man, they are on fire, right? When it comes to AI infrastructure, and they can't deploy fast enough. So we are now able to collect all this information across our customer base. We're bringing our customers together every now and then in different regions, and basically kind of trying to help connect the dots for these customers. So when they go to customers, they know what to look for. This is really helping.
Talk about security, because obviously security has to be built in. There's no time to to go slow. How do you guys help with the enforcement, the security piece? Obviously software is critical. As things come out at rack scale, a lot more density in these factories, but also you got the edge, could be bare metal. So you have now a diverse distributed computing environment. There's a lot of security concerns. How do you address those, and how do you help companies there?
So a capability we built on our product some years ago now, we call it Zero Trust Kubernetes Access, Kubernetes Control Access. At the time, I wonder how many people cared. Now it's like a thing, right? Because particularly when you have distributed infrastructure, the connectivity between the infrastructure and the control plane has to be rock solid, right? And we solved this problem many years ago, actually. So this is now, paying dividends in spades. In addition, at the multi-tenancy implementation at every level, bare metal, network, storage, Kubernetes, VMs, we have a hypervisor implementation, tokens, API gateway, all of these things we've thought about at every layer, the network inside the cluster, outside the cluster. So, and we sort of lead with this. We want to make sure our customers understand and appreciate, look, these are all the things you need to tell your customer about, by the way. Because your customers, the enterprises ask, they may not ask, but they're thinking it. Let's make sure that your salespeople are trained on this. So we lead with this. We draw a line on sort of the prompt, right? So what's inside the sort of the request, we draw a line there. But then what we've done is we found a number of partners that we have a priori integrated with. Photopia, so we're going to talk to him on tomorrow, and other companies like that, where we are able to tell our customers, okay, given the specific use case you're trying to solve for, I have a partner for you.
Yeah.
right? So look, none of us can do everything. It's not possible, right? But this is an ecosystem play, right? I mean, you've been talking to me about this for years. We have brought an ecosystem at every level: network management, storage, security, as well as prompt engineering. All of this stuff, if we can bring the right partners to play, our customers are going to be successful.
Talk about that ecosystem, because I've said on theCUBE many times back in over a decade ago, it's hard to compete with AWS. It's hard to build a cloud. There's many companies that tried, HP, IBM. There's a long list of others. OpenStack was pre-AWS. They failed. It was hard. But now we see AI clouds emerging, CoreWeave, Nebius, the list goes on, Nscale. These are companies that are essentially building clouds. So that's why I asked the cloud native question. So in a way, the cloud native community was building cloud native infrastructure for hyperscalers, and they kind of understand how to stand that up. That's translating to value in the AI clouds, because everyone's an AI company. They need AI infrastructure. So in a sense, there's AI clouds emerging. It's almost a mulligan, another chance for people. And that's why the Neoclouds sector grew, because you have GPU clouds, call them GPU clouds originally, now they're called Neoclouds, but ultimately it's cloud. Now the hyperscalers are continuing to grow. So it's not like against AWS, they're growing too. So you have this distributed computing where everything is cloud-based, but AI infrastructure clouds are the utility.
Indeed. No, I'll go back to my definition of cloud, right? I, as a user, must be able to go to a portal or an API and press a button and get some use case in a multi-tenant fashion. If this can be done, this is a cloud. And of course, the right controls need to be in place. And this is now, particularly because of the hyperscalers who've been around for a long time, they've already trained the buyers to ask these questions. So the good news is, look, we already have the playbook now. AWS already taught everybody. These are the questions to ask. So we don't need to invent anything. We know exactly what to answer, and we lead with those answers. And this is the critical part. I think that 2 years ago, this was a GPU as a service market. Give me a bunch of GPUs, I'll figure it out. It's there. That's never going to go away. But now the sophistication of the buyers is driving value up the stack. You have to now be able to address more requirements, more questions. And that's our job, right? This is what we do for our partners. I definitely see n number of these providers being around. In fact, it's shocking how many of them come up every month. It's amazing, actually. They keep coming, and they all have enough money, and they all have enough demand. Our job as Rafay is to make sure that we can help our provider partners deliver the best possible experience in their sovereign region so that they can make money, which means we can make money.
You're basically helping people stand up AI infrastructure. Absolutely. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing. And you have the muscle and the chops from the knowledge of the cloud work, because that's large scale cloud, but now you're starting to see that deploy. I guess, is there anything you're seeing on the enterprise side that you could share around their orientation, mindset? They don't have the mega budgets, and the financial services kind of does, but still, it's small compared to the billions being tossed around. They're going to want to have a utility. 100. They're going to want to have a one-click, and then have on-premises because they have the data. They're going to have an edge, their offices or the employees running around and accessing telecom networks where it's disaggregated infrastructure. How do you see that enterprise world playing out from a infrastructure deployment and ultimately services?
So on the high-end enterprise side, we are seeing pharma companies, financial services companies deploy AI infrastructure today. It's already happening. They may not have their own data center, so they may work with a colo or a company like Global AI, for example. But this is happening today. The bigger question is, okay, what is the use case? So the number one use case we are seeing right now is open source model consumption. So I use Anthropic, it's great, but at 2 p.m. I get a message that says, come back at 6 p.m. More tokens, right? Okay, when that happens, I want to be able to use an open source model. Maybe it's not as good, but it's good enough, right? And that is a big use case right now. So we're seeing this come up again and again and again. Open source model delivery with the same great experience that in Anthropic or in OpenAI. Obviously, they're so good at this, right? So in our product, over the last year, we've now built a capability, Token Factory. So you can now deliver open source models as a service. You can do this inside your enterprise, or as a Neocloud, you can do it for enterprises. What is the purpose of this? The purpose is, I just want to consume tokens. I want to literally buy a set of tokens, 1 billion tokens a month or whatever. I want to distribute them across my enterprise, give them an API endpoint, go.
And have all the controls as if it's an on-prem
100%
solution for them.
100%.
They need all that heavy lifting that you guys have cracked the code on.
we've been working on for 8 years.
Yeah,
Right?
it's good timing.
Exactly.
The world spun to your door. All right, talk about the differences between Rafay's approach and say someone says, hey, I got my own Kubernetes, I got my own operations. Because again, speed's a factor. That's an easy thing to kind of squint through and say, okay, I can see people going to the proven solution. But versus other Kubernetes operators, what's the difference? How do you compare yourself against the competition and or do it yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we wanted to sort of get away from the Kubernetes question, right? Because the platform is, yes, Kubernetes, but Kubernetes is one of so many things that the platform does. One of the things we did, one decision we made a year ago was we said, Kubernetes is free. The platform you need, if you use our Kubernetes, free. If you use somebody else's, no problem. You still need all these other things, right? So you can layer our Kubernetes, their Kubernetes. Don't worry about it. You make the best decision on the Kubernetes layer. Let's just not have that conversation anymore.
It's standard, so it's not a real. It's not a real problem.
And in many of our, for example, telco customer accounts, right? Red Hat is so prevalent, right? I mean, we love Red Hat. You know, their product called OpenShift, right? So OpenShift is everywhere, and we now support OpenShift in Rafay. So if you've been using OpenShift for the last 10 years, why would we want you to change anything? Keep using it. It's fine. But then the underlay, the network management, et cetera, we'll help with that. And then the overlay, which is the actual multi-tenancies, the tokens, et cetera, we'll do that too. So everybody wins, right? This is an ecosystem play.
What would you say is the biggest thing that people come back and say, Haseeb, you know, we should have gone with you from day one because we tried this happened. What are some of the things that people might see that might be blind spots that they might uncover when they start getting into the velocity and scale and pressure of standing up AI infrastructure?
The DIY, look, our customers know us, right? Nobody knows how to perfectly time a deal, right? So you may have already started your journey 6 months ago. I don't know. So we just met. Now the question is, you have been working on something for 6 months. It's fine, right? So we say to these customers, look, don't change anything, right? You're smart people, let them build. Let's figure out where we can add value, right? And the DIY customers are the ones who come back and say, man, look, you know, this is really hard. This is a lot harder than you think, right? It's deceptively difficult to solve this problem. And the biggest problem to solve here is how do I create a level of, so we've been talking about multi-tenancy in the stack, right? You will also have 1,000 enterprise customers. Each will have 50 teams and each team will have multiple people. That multi-tenancy, how do you get Pepsi and Coke working on the same infrastructure? That people don't think about on day one.
Yeah,
it's an obvious miss. It's okay, no big deal. But that's the point, right? We've thought
of a lot of examples like that. It's not just that's one of many. That come
yeah. But that and the point we're still a small company. I mean, we're a lot larger than we were a year ago. But we have to make sure that our customers are successful, right? So what we're trying to find is the right intersection point with them, right? So, hey, you built what you built. It's great. Let's keep working. Let's keep that. Let's keep investing there. And now let's look at the rest of your roadmap and where can Rafay assist, right? The worst thing to do, in my opinion, in this industry is to take a hard stance on anything, right? It's all or nothing, for example. That's a terrible decision in this. This is truly a play where 4, 5, 6, 7 vendors come together to make one AI cloud successful. So we have to be, myself, my colleagues, we have to have the humility to understand that, hey, look, we're not going to get everybody to use it. It's fine. Where do we add value?
So you're saying it's heterogeneous.
100%.
And it's an operating model going on in real time, it's playing out in front of us.
Yeah. Look, I have a customer, we hope to close this week, where they could not buy the specific number of switches they wanted from a specific vendor because they don't have capacity. So they ended up blending 2 vendors for switches. Now what are we going to do? What's the automation plan for that?
Yeah. So supply chain is a huge factor.
100%, right? I mean,
how is that impacting sales? Software has to be resilient.
Yeah, to do bare metal bring up, there's a protocol called Redfish, for example, right? Which is a standard. Yeah, everybody's slightly different, right? Implementation is different, right? So, okay, we, as the orchestration vendor, we have to understand these nuances. So you may work with Dell or HPE or Supermicro. We have to make sure everything's working. So look, the burden is high because it's a heterogeneous environment. It would be awesome if you picked one vendor and everything just works. Yeah. The world doesn't work that way.
Well, it's nice to be an ingredient in a massive AI, a major ingredient in the massive AI infrastructure build out. What's next for you? You're on escape velocity with the company. You said you've grown in size. What's on your plans going forward? What's the strategy? What's the focus?
The focus is, look, we have some customers who are growing at a scale that we did not imagine, right? The thing that we're thinking about as a company is Some of our customers are going from, 100 GPUs to tens of thousands to multi-hundred thousand GPUs. What is the right operational model for them, right? What does the service mean for them and for us? Because if something bad happens in their environment, it also impacts Rafay, right? So this is the next step of the company. Software, we got. Delivery, we got, right? We need to keep walking down that the value chain, right? And figure out what else we can do for the customer. I think we're gonna, God willing, we're gonna see a bunch of growth in the next year.
Yeah, I think the strategy of being open and partner centric with the hardened technology you guys are building and continuing to build is that, it's kind of like the old computing revolution where it took a lot of companies to build, say, a motherboard and then a server and a PC. There are a lot of things going on to get that utility of computing that we're seeing now, that whoever can build out that utility, it's a lot of different companies. They're looking for partners.
Indeed.
They don't want to have, people that are in and out, not halfway in. They want full partnership because there's so much at stake. Because we were just riffing on this at a recent event where this era, the graphical user interface is irrelevant. You're starting to see natural language. So, in all these shifts, we haven't seen a mega shift like this since the internet, when it's like click and self-serve information. Yeah, we've had GUIs, artifacts, templates, graphical interfaces. Now, for generations, now it's like, okay, AI isn't. So whoever can build the infrastructure that could align with how humans think and work is where all the AI winners are.
Yeah.
In order to make that device, system, or utility, it's a team sport. It's a partnership. Talk about that element, because I see this as a common thread where it's like people want a trusted partner to move just as fast, the cadence of the growth, and be a great supplier partner.
Yeah. There's of course the GPU provider, NVIDIA, and for most of us, right? The OEMs, so the Dells, HP, Cisco's, etc. The storage guys, right? So DD and Vasvika and Dell and Pure, the network management players, right? Separately the switching companies, the North, South, East, West. So each of these, the GSIs, the implementation companies, right? So to us, these are all the companies that get involved to close one account. And sometimes they're subsets, right? The security is separate, right? Cisco may bring their own security layer. All of us have to work together now, right? So we find ourselves in a very interesting position because we're doing the orchestration. We talk to all these companies now, which means that we have a lot of work to do now, right? We have to bring.
It changes your go-to-market strategy. It's not like hire a sales force and have an SC and go out and close a customer, get their needs, deliver a solution, support it.
That's right. Yeah. No, my sales guys, their job, and myself for that matter, right? I'm one of the sales guys on the team. Our job is very different now. Our job at some level becomes project management, right? We got to bring all these people together and make sure everybody's working in unison. Fred, I'll tell you, we built a team in the company for project management. Don't charge $1 for this, right? But this helps my customer be successful. So we are now closing deals faster because of this organization. Completely worth it.
That's why I was really complimentary and supportive of Jensen's extreme co-design philosophy, because that's what semiconductor companies do. They've managed co-design on roadmaps multi-years in advance, but that playbook's coming to the ecosystem.
I'm following NVIDIA's ecosystem. I see them do exactly this.
You have to be a co-design partner.
100%, right? Anytime NVIDIA comes up with a new framework, virtual machine standard or Kubernetes standard or DPU standards, we have to try our best to be the first in line to align with their thinking, right? Because if we're aligned with them, then every customer asks, hey, NVIDIA just published this one specific requirement. Are you aligned with this? Yes. Yeah. Right? I want to always say yes.
That changes the execution model for companies these days, because that is a net new thing in this shift, is that, partnering, okay, business deal, but no, this is a technical partnership, changes the go-to-market, everything changes.
It's amazing.
And the pressure, people are relying on these systems. They're spending, it's not like it's a throwaway project.
That's right.
These are billions of dollars on the table that have a deadline. They got to start monetizing, or if it's political in sovereignty, having some sort of standard and having some results. Everything has so much more pressure on it.
Yeah, I've never seen this before, where if you negotiate for another week with the vendor, the price is going to go up, not down. It's going to go up because, there's not enough memory, et cetera, right? No, people have to make very fast decisions. Yeah. And I think the way NVIDIA is approaching the ecosystem by creating standards, creating profiles of vendors that you should work with, et cetera, they make some soft introductions. I think they're doing all the right things. And as Rafay, look, because a year and a half ago, we did not have the resources, right? We didn't have any of the stuff. All I did was I said, okay, how do they do business? How do they work with all these players? And I tried to emulate that model. It's really working.
All right, final question for Haseeb is an important one. Is as an entrepreneur, co-founder, there's no shortcuts in life and entrepreneurial missions. You've been kind of baking out in the oven 8 years, cloud native, doing good business. Now you hit escape velocity. What lesson have you learned, and how does that translate to other entrepreneurs, also operators who are quasi-entrepreneurs, because they have to essentially go from 0 to 1, stand up infrastructure, and then go keep building and operating? What mindset, what have you learned? Be patient. What's some of the lessons that you've learned? Because now just when you thought it was, grinding out, then boom, kick up revenue.
I think, look, we had a specific thesis of what the market needs, right? And look, when we had that thesis 7-8 years ago, right? Yeah, nobody cared. It's okay. Yeah. But we knew this was the right way to think about the problem, and the market came to us. Yeah. It could have, by the grace of God, it came now. It could have taken another 2 years, and it would be more painful, obviously, right? But it came, right? I think, look, if we believe in something, we have to kind of stay the course, right? Now, while we were waiting, we had to make money. So that we start focusing on Kubernetes management, which, by the way, was always a subset of our platform. That was never the platform. It was always a subset. So we monetized because we had to. You gotta pay your bills. You gotta make money, right? But we were convinced that this will happen, and it did, right? That is very hard.
And you guys did the work too. You stayed on the North Star, continued to do it, and again, like you mentioned earlier, Kubernetes is a standard. No one talks about Linux versions. Linux runs everything. So like Kubernetes, it's everywhere now. It got boring in a good way. Now all these higher level services, so microservices get hardened. That looks like agents. So the wave of cloud native is leading into the AI native, but its AI native world is looking different, but kind of the same.
Yeah, indeed. No, you're exactly right. I think cloud native has basically become AI native with some semblance of, cloud native in the mix, of course. But without all of us having gone through the cloud native era, we would not be here. Right? So these things build upon themselves. We just have to understand that, they built upon themselves. This is not like I get asked the question, is this a pivot? No, this is what we've been building forever.
It's a trajectory growth.
Right?
It just happens to be going up. It's just like a nice line up. You got to give a shout out to the Linux Foundation. You mentioned cloud native, and the hyperscalers. They really nurtured open systems, open standards, the combination of open compute on the racks. We're seeing all the rack standardization going back, say, a decade when let's standardize on rack, cooling. All these things are kind of boiling into what is now the biggest demand curve I've ever seen. I mean, I've never in my life as a techie, forget SiliconANGLE, this kind of a build out. I mean, it's unprecedented.
Indeed. I'm sorry, and I don't think anybody has seen anything like this. It's amazing. I have calls every weekend with customers, not like I have calls with customers on weekends because they're also working. And none of us, it's not like we're crazy. There's demand. Yeah. Right. We are all trying to serve our customers, right?
Well, you got to get an agent for that. Get your agent taking the calls.
Yeah.
Love support.
I run a claw in device that does a lot of my emails for me. I don't have an admin, by the way.
Well, it's great to see you. Congratulations on all the success. Pass on my regards to the team.
Thank you very much for always supporting us.
We've been following your work. I'm John Furr with theCUBE. In this CUBE conversation, we're exploring, the massive demand curve. It's infrastructure build out. You need to run this at large scale, not just stand up. You got to run it and get monetizing. AI is putting a lot of pressure on delivery, and we're seeing more and more. The numbers are big and can be quantified. We're doing our part here on theCUBE to bring that to you. Thanks for watching.